Welcome back, everyone, on this new episode of Sensitive Not Broken, the podcast where we talk about pelvic pain. Today, as following the previous episode, I'm going to talk about the Chronic Pain Rehabilitation Center. So, I didn't basically find this place, someone brought it to me. Um, and it was a real change in the healing process. So, for those who didn't know, rehabilitation centers are medical structures specialized in helping people suffering from whatever chronic pain that exists: back pain, endometriosis, pelvic pain, whether they are diagnosed or not. So, I had to face medical wandering for years, tackled medical staff incomprehension, and my own incomprehension, by the way. So I was very exhausted by everything and this journey. So the center occurred to me like a relief. So I decided to tell you about it for you so maybe you can get access to it. Because indeed, you cannot walk in an hospital and ask for it. Usually, a doctor, so in my case, it was a gynecologist, asks for you through a letter or a mail. But you have to be patient though because it can be very long to be addressed an appointment. So my gynecologist, for example, sent the email in October 2023, and I got an update in 2024 for an appointment due in September 2024. So they put it on by themselves without any previous consultation about my availability. So you basically receive a summon out of nowhere. So I guess how long it take might depend on the center. So you just so for you it can be like shorter or it can be like longer. But I was like suffering so much, so it just felt like an eternity. Like even if it would have been shorter, it would have still felt so long for me. So yeah. So between this appointment with the gynecologist and the one at the rehabilitation center, I checked other health professional, including a surgeon in Paris. Her specialty is the pudendal nerve. So she basically told me she couldn't do anything before I go to this rehabilitation center. And one of the main reason why was because I was way too young to get this surgery done in this area, and she would only do it in case of like very last chance. So I spent my whole summer under tramadol, so a very high painkiller, because my GP was done hearing me being like so sad and depressed every 2 months at his place. So anyway, it just like didn't get any better as time went by, basically. Saying so, I had some time to kill to search on chronic pain, so I found a book in a bookshop in Paris that was entitled Chronic Pain Rehabilitation. It was written by the Dr. Evan Parks. Is an algologist. So, an algologist is a doctor specializing in pain management. It's very well written, and you have examples of some of his patients, some exercises too. And, well, the exercise, that was my bad. I didn't have the courage to try, so I can't tell you anything about it in case you were wondering, but because I was so depressed, I couldn't just do anything. I was like, never mind, it will not be useful for whatever reason. Um, So now let's back into the thick of things. So how does an appointment in this place go? So it might depend a little bit on the places you go to. With the convening letter, you get sent a survey on your mental health concerning your pain, and you have to rate your pain level on a scale. So I fit it, but none of the doctors really read it. So anyway, they didn't want my dad to come with me for some reason, maybe intimacy, or maybe because like it's a pelvic area, they were like, oh, it might be because of abuse or whatever. I don't really know, I didn't ask, to be fair. I sat in front of like three female doctors, so one algologist, one gynecologist, and one therapist. It was kind of surprising because, well, it's a whole thing of this process to get like a multidisciplinary approach. So they ask me questions they checked also on me and eventually gave me a plan to follow. I will say that communication was the most difficult part because the agologist kept bragging about how she helped dozens and dozens of women to get over the hump, whereas on my side, I only knew confident but incapable doctors. So she was like, "Oh, it's your last chance." So, well, I had no choice. So, of course, I followed the plan she gave me. I just put my pride on side, okay? It's fine. So, the diagnosis was a pelvic floor hypersensitivity. So, your pelvic area from your anus to your urinary hole is full of sensors. Somehow, they get triggered and become very sensitive and hurt as a signal to let you know that something is wrong, even if it's not really, really wrong. So they asked me to continue the antidepressant I was on. They asked me to continue the therapy sessions and add pelvic release exercise with a kinesiotherapist. So they all told me that it could take some time and that throughout the time we will just adapt and check everything in 3 months and maybe like just adapt the exercise or the treatment in itself and the whole process. So, but I just left like completely hopeless. I was like, oh, they'll told me that, but as usual, they will just be incapable doctors because this is all I knew, you know. So I didn't have like many hopes on whether they knew their jobs or not. So yeah, not gonna lie, at the start I was very cynical about it. Um, but I still scheduled every appointment out of the next week. I mean, I was always, but I had nothing to lose trying on. I mean, in France, healthcare is free, so I don't even have to lose money for it, you know. So it took some time before any results showed up. I felt even more 5 feet underground than I had felt before. So like every appointment to my kinesiotherapist, I was just like crying. she was so, she felt so like awkward. She was like looking at me like, "Girl, just get back on track," you know. So until then, um, well, I eventually slept with a very experienced guy who knew how to deal with women having sexual dyspareunia. I mean, I was just not the first person he had met. So I still think that I had my real first time on this night because it was for me the first time I had real sensations and not pain. So if I could describe it in one word, it will be like amazing or like incredible, something like that. And every time we will have sex, it gave me more and more hope, and it hurt quite less. And it gave me like some tricks to just like make it less hurtful for my body because like he just knew how to deal with it from like previous experiences he had. So it changed the way I saw my body and my sexuality. It was this guy was like so nice. It was like so good, and I just remember me going back to school after I did this first time, which was like my first time, and I came back to my friend and I was just crying of just like joy because for the first time in my life it didn't hurt. Um and it didn't hurt peeing for the next 24 hours, which was a lot at a time because it was just hurtful every time I peed. So, and never mind. I came back 3 months after to the rehabilitation center, surrounded by 5 health professionals. This time, I will say they were quite impressed by how fast it improved. Thus, they asked me to continue what I've already started without changing anything. They also added that if it hurts with some men, they could also just be very bad at sex, which like make me laugh because I was like, yeah, of course, men, you know, men. So just letting you know that be careful though, because it didn't mean that it never hurts anymore. I understood that I wasn't born with this condition, but that it was my body reaction as to protect myself. So some days, and still today, it hurts when I pee. So, like, almost 1 year later, it still hurts sometimes. Some days or some other, no, but like, it really depends. Like, for example, I know that for sometimes if I eat spicy for like too many meals in a row, it will hurt. So I guess it's just like my sensors. I was like, oh my god, she ate spicy, as if it was like a crazy thing, but it wasn't obviously. But they're just being dramatic. Sensors are dramatic. But I do understood that it was all about learning. So, like during sexual intercourses, some way of getting inside hurt more than some other ways. So, I know now that according to how I eat, equal burn when I pee, as I was saying. Um, but it's just like good reason for my sensor to be excited, but even though for me it's not. I know that also like choosing my sexual partners differently is helpful. Like all those little things added up could decrease the pain in the future, because it's just like all about learning and all about like reprogramming your brain, because brain is like connected to your body. So if your brain feel like it's the signal, then your body hurts, but it could also like be reprogrammed in a way, so which is the good thing. It's just a different routine, you know. It requires a lot of communication with your partners, but also with yourself. So you could think that in a way it could increase your mental load to care daily about those little things, but I don't really feel like it at all. Um, Maybe because I found something quite playful to it about, learning, trying, and just be self conscious about my own body. I think it's just a very playful way to learn, and also because like it cannot get worse than it was. You know what I mean? So now I'm just like, okay, sometimes it hurts, but if it's like one every 2 week, then it's fine. You're like, I'm not gonna die from it. Whether before I was just dying from depression. So, well, I will talk about it in another episode, but it allowed me to get better, but not to feel happier and to get 100% out of depression, which is still an everyday fight. It's easier in a way, but it's still a fight. I was very, 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 very lucky that my condition improved very quickly. I don't know if it's because I'm young, so my brain is able to learn and relearn very quickly, or if it's just a matter of luck. But unfortunately, everyone is different, and some people might need more appointments than others. I guess it's just like part of the game that is life. So even though it gets better and you do everything for it, somehow for a reason that is unknown, it will hurt just because your body feel like it, or like because you're overstressed or whatever. I eventually understood, not accept, but I finally understood that this process takes time and patience, which I don't have at all, I can tell you, but you just have to do it. As I said, I'm not accepting it, but I have no choice. The universe is not giving me hell of a choice. Never. So, what is for sure is like it has a lot of effort, a lot of sweat, and this is neither easy or funny. But if you are able to ask to be given access to those centers, then I will suggest you to go right for it. I think it's worth it. Like according to the reputation too, you may have more to gain than to lose. So like just go for it. Just ask for it. Even though nobody knows that it exists, just ask for it. It's kind of all about my chronic pain rehabilitation center journey, mm, it didn't end my pain, but it just struck me with another point of view on it. So today I kind of continue learning to live with her and sit with this pain, sometimes reliving it, sometimes just understanding it. So is the way it goes. It gets better, which I'm very surprised that I can say that actually. But anyway, so I will keep you updated as usual, as we are like all in the same boat. Thank you very much for listening to this episode, and I count on you for the next one. So take care and see you soon. Bye.